Hello and good evening. Going to be looking at Hurricane Nigel in the Atlantic. Series of loops of satellite time lapses as this storm explodes in power before curving a little further into the North Atlantic, avoiding any landfall. It is quite a massive storm. But Hurricane Nigel should pose no threat, at least the eastern seaboard. Storm whipped up pretty quickly as I go back another 40 frames, trying to see the creation of the storm, its violent birth. Comic looking energy at night. Now, Tropical Tidbits has the visible reflectance. Many powerful explosions. Call them explosions as all this air tightens up. Implosions. Yes, implosions I think would be more. Back to the other. You see more high resolution animations of Hurricane Nigel. Increase the amount of time of the loop by 3 times the amount. Get it during the day so you can see its energy during the sunlight. That final last gasp of storm realizing the sun's going away and its power along with it. It has a very long track journey now. Pull that graphic up. East of Bermuda, avoids Newfoundland, and increasingly makes an arc till it goes to the North Atlantic, carrying very much needed tidal currents out to the north. Needs as much as possible to get it out of the Gulf of Mexico, as this water in the Gulf of Mexico stews around as a bowl while it's being stirred. The water just keeps getting warmer and expands further. This is a good thing. I believe the storm is a beneficial hurricane. Moves around absolute metric tons of dust in the atmosphere in the air above us. Creates a wall. You can see this heading south from the hurricane spiral. It isn't just material being ejected from the hurricane, but this also creates a shield wall from all that dust you could see in that. In the air, just right. You can't see my mouse, can you? That went away. Bring it right back. And it's back. Did not like me enabling cursing, but it did this time, so it sticks. Massive, fantastic. Wind speeds over 100 miles an hour as this continues to make its way northwest, northeast. You can see in the bottom right, now the middle right. Sharp turn, less than 12 hours, it goes from north to northeast to a very sharp east. This storm is smart. It does not want to die a violent death against the shore, a la Hurricane Lee. This is air mass. Got that sphere in the. We can see curvature of the Earth, which is important. A volcano doesn't travel up; it travels an arc on a curve. It's when a volcano erupts. There is a moment where the ejecta can no longer continue up and must continue a different direction unless it meets a thermal inversion. This hurricane by itself now, creating explosions powerful enough, you would need metric tons of TNT exploding to be equivalent. Try to get closer or show the storm off a little bit better. Beautiful. this isn't exactly what I was looking for. Something. See if this has the reach. Okay, let's turn some settings on. Okay, set up some parameters here. Now pay attention to Florida here. Again. There it goes. It's back again, sorry about that. Now pay attention to Florida here. I don't know what that graphic is in the middle here, but it is looks to be an insert of different radar system. This hurricane doesn't appear to be moving much at all west, almost stationary for a little bit until it makes its way north. But look at the draw over Florida in the Gulf of Mexico. All that water and moisture and air wants to get out of the Gulf of Mexico, and everything wants to head north. For a variety of reasons why last 2 to 3 years the northerly currents haven't been able to make their journey completed. You can see all this moisture being ripped out of Florida among the Gulf of Mexico. It doesn't want it there anymore. This is a powerful storm. Air mass. Strange artifact that keeps shooting. See if I go to 12 and it's gone. A little slower. Now, it is usually looking at the lower, the mid, and the upper 24 frames. Back to 12, I don't like that artifacting. You can see in the lower level, this thing is a beast and it has a really good foothold there on the Atlantic. Go to the mid-level wavelength. More rotation. You see the more pronounced direction that it wants to take, north-northeast, after it's done with this cycle. And again, still ripping out of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's pulling all that moisture over Florida, and that is going to create lightning. This whole area right here of Florida is where Florida will probably crumple into the ocean. I don't mean this negatively. I mean, when you physically harm the environment to the point it can't not just recover or heal, but support life, this is the kind of insane, extreme climate disasters waiting to happen that I don't think can be averted any longer, especially when it comes to the Gulf of Mexico. From one side, central Mexico, to the other side of the Gulf of Mexico, ripping out of Florida. It is vulgar. These warning signs have been here so long, but no one wants to say, how about let's put a ban on cruise liners for a year? It seemed to have worked wonders before, not allowing people to die on a ship and get off that ship and kill everyone else. Get right back into it with cruise ships going everywhere, eating cheap buffet food. I think it's more the buffet food than anything else. Yuck. Now the upper level is showing a lot more. There is a major difference in temperature for the ocean. Alright. And lightning in case it actually does flash. It might look like Florida is burning across Georgia, but it's just moisture. It's just everything that is being pulled up and over and through Florida instead of going through the normal tidal currents around the south tip of Florida and then breaking apart against all of these island chains. Instead, we have a concurrent circle, concentric circles in the Gulf of Mexico that are cycling water to the point that these tidal currents are going to be too strong to contain. It's going to have massive tidal waves up on Texas and Louisiana, or it's just going to rip right through Florida in the way that we see here. This is where the water currents need to travel north. They need to complete the sequence. If it doesn't, it's just going to keep trying again and again, and what doesn't kill you will only try again stronger another day. Because this is a force. Florida is in extreme danger. I would say all of south of Jacksonville is going to have extreme stability problems with the ground, flooding. Yeah, that we already see anyway. Oh well, Florida's doomed. So what else can we ascertain here? Turn off these settings. We can see its power at night. Pumping the brakes early. And it wants to head north in one big punch. One big lone storm in the sea. In the area where it's hitting the U.S. Virgin Islands is a swarm of earthquakes that have been taking place, interestingly enough. These storms go far deeper in the ocean than we think. At least I thought more people might be aware that these storms, when they come along shore, they die. They tear themselves apart, making landfall. Landfall to even a storm as great as this one is its end. Happily, you can see the curvature that this hurricane will be taking North Atlantic. It already has path set out for itself. And besides Gulf of Mexico to Florida, no adverse effects might be seen. It has great looking eye. Let me see if I can pull up another. Yes. Short little animation of it. Windy. Yeah, let's try. See where the 988 I should be. Its core of the storm will be in the southwestern flank of the storm. Come back to graphics. We can go to the storm Hurricane Nigel separately. We can see it, even the eye wall reforming here. Sudden explosion of activity drives it forward, rather north. Blue. Day-night cycle. Hurricane stops in place. Nightfall. Not much movement overnight. but in 12 hours on Tuesday is the biggest advancement of the storm as it makes a Union symbol in the Atlantic to the North Atlantic. Avoids landfall, should maintain its wind speeds of over 100 miles an hour. This is the noted earthquake swarms on a transformative fault. Shallow transformative fault in north of Puerto Rico. Hurricane is avoiding that area. And let's see. This storm is going to track all the way to it can get to the point of hitting Ireland. It is taking a line straight Ireland where it's going to desperately try to hang on to life, but we can see it's going to get absolutely ripped apart. .980, 981 meets a pair, combines. This is synergy here. Two storms meeting, open ocean. Must be two eyes meeting, tearing each other apart. Such violent power. It continues north until almost projected to come between Iceland and Ireland. That is the EMCWF. I haven't looked at the GFS. Don't think it's going to be much different. Oh, not much different. Maybe it'll show how the storm, what has it meet the storm sooner this time in this other model. Little differences, but it's still so many days out and it is a hurricane, so things can change. As it stands now, it seems to hit maximum category 2, 110 miles per hour winds, stays clear of land and goes right back out to the deep North Atlantic. Turn on the tidal currents. Now these are the currents need to complete making their way north. As you can see, I can go over here, how they ride up alongside of the coast of Japan. And these can be extremely powerful currents, unsurvivable. This is the kind of water that catches somebody and just takes them out to sea. It doesn't stop. Now these currents are starting to look promising thanks to a handful of storms lately. See, Gulf of Mexico is under, turn off the pressure lines. Gulf of Mexico is under an immense amount of strain as the temperature of the Gulf of Mexico appears to be just one solid color. And if you actually like condiments, or if you dislike condiments, you understand why, and that nothing one color is ever okay. Ketchup, mayonnaise, no. It needs to be spread out. I am seeing here is a very, very Most of the Gulf of Mexico appears to be like 90 degrees. That's what I was mentioning earlier, is the entire Gulf of Mexico being one temperature, the water is just going to keep spiraling. And I'm afraid it's going to tear right through Florida because it has not been able to go under and around and hug the coastline, go over North Carolina and spread the water out. Instead, these need to be stronger, these currents need to get stronger until they are able to travel north. There's a lot of wound up potential energy in the Gulf of Mexico that keeps rising and falling. It is tremendous. This hurricane will hopefully reduce some of the stress on the Gulf of Mexico. It sure is going to take a lot of the heat off the top. That's really all the most beneficial aspect of the storm is removing heat, excess heat from the Gulf of Mexico. Now we go to simple wavelength. Still the mid-Atlantic, North Atlantic. This stellar looking storm, this simple wavelength. Each band just coming off after the last sheets of rain. High wall cycle looks to be underway by the end of this time lapse. Elegant. The kind of storms we like to see. It's ripping a lot off the top. The Gulf of Mexico and swampy southern Florida. Remnants of Lee, coupled with this hurricane forming, completely ripping all that out. September 18th, 2023. Nigel expected to strengthen. Expected to strengthen as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. Maximum sustained wind is about 80 miles an hour right now. rapidly intensify into a major hurricane Tuesday, so between 2 and 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. hurricane local time. I can move this over now to continental United States so I can get a better look at our Gulf of Mexico. Moisture divergence, vectors, temperatures, longitude, and cape, all the blasting lights, total precipitable water and rainfall rate. Okay, I think this is ready. Include the animation bar. Now these, take a look at, turn off the wind vector lines. All the way to the end. I'm going to turn off precipitable water. This line makes up Cape no higher than that area we saw being blasted out of Florida. That swampy, soggy area in the south. A lot of moisture that's being taken out, and that could cause a lot of drought. And as that is taken out, there's an awful amount of lightning that can be discharged. Florida's in for an interesting week, but I don't think anybody else will have any concern unless they're sailing in the Atlantic or if they're on San Jorge Island. I can't remember the North Atlantic islands right now. San Meyer, that's north of Iceland. Summertime. A lot of mass moisture transference and the depth of groundwater as these groups of lightning strike cause groundwater to run away. Only natural lightning is scary. Drives away water along with any kind of explosive heat exposure. You see here, all the moisture is being pulled off from the Gulf of Mexico, steam, all that is crossing right over Florida, right where you see this Cape line. In the middle of Florida, like Orlando is right here. All this cloud coverage here and off Florida, off the south side of Florida, is being pulled away into the Atlantic. So it's going to be real balmy Florida after Tuesday. This is going to be a lot of heat, a lot of moisture, literally just being draped over Florida for an entire day. Turn off the Cape line. Off supercells. Malabar, achieve wind gust. Cloud top height and total precipitable water. It's too much to really tell the difference, but seas being pulled right off the Gulf of Mexico. It's fine, it's okay, it's just the Gulf of Mexico is just all one temperature right now. And this needs to cool, so it's gonna pull some of this out, but it can't go any further. Florida won't let it. Instead, it's going to pull it out and over, and it's going to cause hell in Florida. It is quite an amazing storm, and it's going to do amazing things for the North Atlantic and its current system, but I'm afraid it needs to be a much, much stronger hurricane to do the kind of work that needs to get done, cool all this excess heat out of the Gulf of Mexico before there is a severe problem with erosion and groundwater meeting hot, salty water. Unreal storm, but should be no harm to life. Going to strengthen into a Category 2 in the Atlantic. And just stop short of the Sargasso Sea. Big rotations, big eye, shoots up north. Powerful lightning in the outer band, the east side of the storm, the last scan. From 2 p.m. Tuesday, 2 a.m. Wednesday. Storm punches up a little bit to Sargasso Sea. That's when it does a very large redirect northeast-east. All the way until it just about finishes up reaching Ireland. This storm is a really impressive track. It'll be fun to follow and to watch the amount of water hit the place as well, putting up these walls against all the This dust coming over. You had enough. That's going to be the big takeaway from this stream, as I believe I have nothing more to say about this storm, hurricane, the Atlantic. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, please.